Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. I'll start off by apologising for my voice today if it does sound a little bit strange or more annoying than usual. I've got a bit of a sore throat at the moment, so apologies for that, but I'll try not to let it get in the way. Today I've got a review of a lovely loco, one of my favourites, as always. One that I have reviewed a long time in the past, but it's one that I feel I can do better now because I've got the better rolling stock, better lighting, and probably a little bit more experience about this sort of thing. So here it is. It's the beautiful County class, and there's loads of GWR engines like it, but this one is the County of Cornwall. And there is a little bit of a story behind this loco, which I told in the original video when I reviewed this. And on the rare occasion that I don't buy a loco from eBay, like this one, I do like to try and remember, sort of where I got them and the circumstances, just because it's a little bit more interesting. So there is a bit of a story behind this one. I bought this one in the summer of 2013, as far as I know, and it came from Butterley, also known as the Midland Railway Centre, I believe, or something like that. Midland Railway Centre? Yeah, it sounds about right. And this actually was one of their locos from the model railway that they had there. Now, slightly earlier, it probably was 2012, maybe 2013, very sadly, some vandals set fire to the model railway, and it was gutted by the fire, unfortunately, as far as I know, so I'm told. It destroyed the model railway, and this is one of the locos that was in that fire, or nearby the fire. And so the good people of the model railway decided to sell this loco simply because the box was charred. As you can see, there's a little bit of charring there. It really isn't bad at all. I couldn't, very, very slight marks on the box, but really nothing very substantial at all. But so I'm told that was the reason they sold it. And I bought it for about £35, I think, which I thought was a pretty good deal, and I suppose it still is. It is a Hornby Railroad model, which normally means that the detail is, slightly below what you would get from a premium model. But as I always maintain, the detail on Hornby Railroad is normally pretty good, and it's certainly good enough for me. So, if I like the loco, regardless of whether it's railroad or not, I tend to buy it. But yeah, this is the County of Cornwall, as you can see, a lovely Great Western 460. I realise the glare is probably quite irritating at the moment, so I will open the box as soon as possible. But first I will look at the end of the box for you, and as you can see there, we've got the catalogue number, which is R2937, and underneath there it says GWR County, County of Cornwall, and then we've got the running number, which is 1006. So I think that's about it. The box is basic. Of course, in these days of Hornby there wasn't very much information given to you about the locos like they do now. Oops, that probably didn't do it much good. But yeah, so now let's get her out so that you can actually see her. And we'll start with the tender then. This packaging is quite tight fitting, which makes it quite hard to get the logo out at least. But yeah, there's the tender, very nice tender. I'll review it all properly quite shortly, once we get it up onto the background, but there it is. Onto the loco, and this is a really, really nice loco. Hornby do make a good Great Western loco, and as I say, it's very tight, so I need to try and get this out without damaging anything. I think we've got it. We bought some of the box out with it, or the packaging. Let's take that out. Luckily these locos don't go in the boxes very often. It's normally just to review them that they come out, so it isn't a massive issue. And I think I serviced this one not too long ago, so hopefully we should be in for some good running. But there she is anyway, the Railroad County class. And very nice it is too. I will just show you very quickly what else you get in the box. Presumably you would have got some instruction manual of some sort, but in the days when I bought this I used to take those out, and I've got them all in a box somewhere. But I'm sure you all know what I mean, so that's that. But there is also a little detail pack which is still taped to the box. Presumably there's some instructions on how to fit them. You can see them under there, but all you've got there by the looks of it is the braking rods, or the brake rods, for the loco and the tender, and a spare coupling, which you could put on the front of the loco if you wanted to pull it from the front, which is very nice because, if you're sort of younger, or not necessarily younger, but if you want to do some more various shunting with these locos, a front coupling is very useful. But for me, I do tend to leave them off. I tend to pull from the back, so yeah, that's not a problem. Alright, well that's the unboxing done then. I'll get all this out of the way and we will move her up onto the white background and I'll try and show you a little bit more about her. Alright, let's get on with it. Okay, so there she is then, the county class, and I'll start by giving you a little bit of background information about the class. So the official name of this class was the GWR 1000 class, but obviously I'll just call it the county class. And these were sort of produced towards the end of World War II, or probably at the end, between 1945 and 1947, and 30 of them were built, but sadly they were all scrapped in the 60s and none of them were preserved. But apparently there is a replica being built in the modern age, as it were, so that'll be quite nice, I suppose, when that happens. The class brings together ideas from the whole class, but mainly the Saint class, and this is described as the final development of the Saint class. I don't know if Hornby make a Saint class, possibly they do. That would be a nice one to try and get, actually. A lot of people thought they were quite flashy, actually, described as expensive and unnecessary, but others thought they were pretty nice locos, as do I, which were quite good runners, as it were, I suppose. But yeah, a very lovely loco, and there's a few things to talk about in model form before we start the review properly. The tender and the loco are connected together by a drawbar just there. There is a copper pickup that goes between there, but I've removed that on mine because it doesn't really help things particularly. This model's also been chipped as well, DCC chipped, and you can actually see the chip in this one if you look just underneath the boiler, which is probably a bad plan in my part, but it must have been the best place to put it at the time, and I suppose it does help with cooling as well, so you know, that isn't too bad. So on with the review then, and just remember this is a railroad model, so it isn't famed for its detail or whatnot. But just look at all the separately fitted parts, especially just in front of the cab area. You've got the various handrails, which I suppose you normally do get, so there's nothing too much to squeal about there. But there is a lot of piping, as you can see. There's the sort of reverser rod, is it called? I know it's something to do with the reverser, which goes all the way down there. And you can normally tell with that because it's only on the one side. But you've got that, and you've got the lovely County of Cornwall nameplate, which looks very, very realistic, very beautiful indeed. And other separately fitted parts, you've got the whistles at the back there, the reasonably detailed safety valves as well in the centre there, vacuum pipes, and even a copper chimney on the top, which I absolutely love when they actually do put copper on there. It's just not the same when they use plastic, but you know, I don't think they do use plastic. I think they're all copper, aren't they? At least from Hornby. And yeah, I just can't believe the amount of detail on it. This is not a modern county class. This is, what, 2012 or previous. But look at all the rivets. The front of the boiler, look, there's loads of rivets there. All around the front buffer beam and on the side of it too, just rivets everywhere. The side of the cab is amazing as well for rivets, and they're sort of different size rivets as well, look. You've got some that go across there and then some that go around the sort of border of it. So amazing detail, really, really, really good. The roof of the cab is a pretty detailed piece. It's just speckled with rivets, it really is. And yeah, it's just a fantastic model, isn't it? This has got to be sort of the best of the railroad range, in my opinion. It really does have to be, doesn't it? And let's not forget the very, very smart Great Western livery. You've got this lovely GWR green with the orange stripes. Like normal, I suppose, but they really are very nicely done. The paintwork is very, very sharp. As you can see, the stripes are perfectly done as well, with the sort of black bands in between them, which is always fantastic. Let's take a look around the front then, at the front of the smoke box. Of course, the handle is not separately fitted, but after Thompson's 01, I'm quite glad about that, because it did come off and I had to replace it, quite expensively as well, so perhaps it's a good thing. The buffer beam is pretty good as well. You've got all the rivets and such, like I mentioned. You've also got sprung buffers. Let me show you, just in case you don't believe me. Which again, even that is pretty good for the railroad range. And you've got the running number, of course, on the front of there, which I think I've already mentioned is 1006. And still plenty of rivets here and there, which just bring out the detail pretty nicely. If we look around the cab then, I've already mentioned about all the rivets around it, but you have got the running number on the side as usual, 1006, and also glazed windows on the sides and the front, which is fantastic. It really does help. It just makes a change from the plastic, doesn't it? Just to look like you've got something like glass in there. Right, going inside the cab then, you have got quite a bit of cab detail in there. Sadly it isn't painted, but as I always say, with cabs like this that are quite enclosed, it's not too important whether they're painted. And perhaps even the Railways version of this doesn't have a painted cab, because it's just not necessary, you can't really see it. So it's not a big deal at all really. If we look across to the tender then, you'll see that there's not that many rivets on there, but it's still quite a smart tender, I think it's fair to say. One feature I do like particularly is the coal, and I suppose I'll show that first, because this version doesn't have a full load of coal, like 99% of other locomotives do. It's sort of dwindling, isn't it? It's sort of half empty, or mostly empty, which is a really nice touch. You know, when you stand all your Great Western locos together, it just looks a little bit different. And of course, the coal loads in real life wouldn't always be full. After a long journey, it would be quite usual to see, you know, a half-empty tender. And I think this model does a really good job of portraying that, which is great. The back of the tender is probably the best place to look if you want detail. You've got a couple of handrails on each side and two round the top, which is quite nice. Again, for the railroad range, you'd normally see that they were just moulded on or just not included at all. So that really is quite good. And of course you've got a similarly detailed buffer beam with a fair few rivets and a vacuum pipe, and of course the sprung buffers as well. And there's quite a bit of moulded stuff on the tender as well. You've got the ridges like that, you've got the dome and some various other parts, including the very nicely detailed undercarriage with the usual riveting and suspension springs, and some steps on the front and back as well, which is always nice for realism. But yeah, I think that's a quick but hopefully quite detailed look at the County class. A really nice loco, I must admit. For its age, it really is a very well detailed model, and I will always defend the Hornby Railroad range because I really do think there is nothing wrong with it at all, and the locos are very well detailed, as you can see by this one. It really just is an absolutely gorgeous loco. Just look at it. I'm probably a bit too enthusiastic about it, to be honest, but yeah, I really do think it's nice. Let's just see if there's anything else I've missed out. Oh yes, the Great Western on the side of the tender, of course. Again, very nicely printed, isn't it? You can see so clearly the illustration there and the very sharp lettering. I suppose you would have expected as much, but yeah, that's really nice. Alright, let's do a little bit of performance then. Let's get her down onto the railway. We'll use the Select today, just because it's easier than getting Railmaster up and running just for one loco. So yeah, get her down onto the railway. I've got the Great Western coaches ready for her and another loco, which I'll introduce in just a second. Alright, let's get on with it. Okay, so there she is then, the beautiful County class, ready on the railway, looking very smart. Behind her then, ready to be coupled to, is my rake of 4 Great Western coaches, so hopefully she'll look quite smart pulling those. I suppose they are something like the coaches she would have pulled in real life, so that's quite nice. On the other line then, we've got another very lovely locomotive. This one's the 060 Collet class locomotive. This time I've got number 3210 on the line. Now I don't know what the countdown is all about on the running number there. But that's her, and she's got 3 of the old blood and custard coaches, whatnot. She's in a BR livery, but of course they are still Great Western locomotives, the Collet class. Anyway then, let's get the Select ready to control the County class. So she's number 10, so I'll key that in there and press Select, and we'll just give her a little bit of speed forwards and backwards first, just so that you can see how she runs in slow speed, and then of course we'll do the coupling. So here we go then, a little bit of juice backwards to start with, nice and slow, and that it really isn't bad at all, is it? Now you can get some of the 460s like this, the Great Western ones, that have got the sort of Ringfield type motor in them. I think my Hogwarts Castle's got one. And it is a bit unusual, but it does run very well. But this one's just the regular motor as far as I can tell. You know, the worm and worm wheel style motor. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? That's a really good slow speed. Alright, let's change direction, take her back then, and let's do a little coupling shot. Nice and steady. I'm going to slow her right down for the actual moment. And there we go. Perfect. And let's bring her into shot then. Look at that. How can you not love that? And this is a budget model. This cost me £35. Can you believe it? Just look at her. Right, forwards we go then. Let's give her a little bit of juice. Bring those coaches off nice and smoothly. Oh yes, and she's a very, very powerful loco as well. This is nowhere near her limit. Okay, up to a better speed. And there they go, the lovely coaches. And let's get the collet to go as well then, shall we? Right, now she's a main line of course, as you might remember. So she does need a little bit of warming up. But she might be alright as we start. So, a little bit of power, nice slow speed there. Don't forget these motors don't really like slow speed, so let's give her some more. Yeah, she's not the smoothest, but she's pretty good once she gets going. Let's take a look at them both going round together, shall we? Yes, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And the County is an absolutely brilliant runner, as you can tell there. Just look at her go. Marvellous. Looks like we've got a cable sneaking into the way there. I'll pull that back. Alright, I'm just going to stop these two lovely girls here then. There we go. And yeah, that's it. That's the County class reviewed for you, running alongside the lovely 3210 Collet class. Two very, very lovely logos. I do like them both very much, and they have both behaved very well today actually. So I'll give you one last look at the County class then. And I can very much recommend this locomotive to anyone. It's perfect for beginners because it's not too delicate, yet it's very, very well detailed. And of course the fact that it is well detailed means that it's perfectly suitable for serious modelers as well. So it really is a very, very good locomotive. And as you can see, it performs just as well as it looks as well, which is very, very useful indeed. Anyway everybody, that should about do it for today then anyway. So thank you very much for watching, as always, it's very much appreciated. If you'd like to get involved even further, you can visit the Facebook page and the Twitter page, which are facebook.com/samstrains and twitter.com/samstrains. Or you can tweet me at samstrains. Either way is absolutely fine by me, but it's nice to all get together on social network and whatnot. We can chat or, you know, just share pictures and posts and things with each other, so that's absolutely great. But I think that's all I've got to say on this matter anyway, so thank you very much for watching, as I've already said, and I'll see you all very soon. Cheers everybody.